Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and tonight we're talking Week 4 waivers and a little bit about the Monday Night Football game that just ended. But before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Profit, or you can follow us on Instagram at Fantasy Football Profit, and you can always go check out our YouTube page as well, youtube.com/Fantasy Football Profit. So before we jump into waivers, thought we'd just quickly talk about the Monday night game we just got done seeing. And I guess it was a return to form for the Bears defense and just turnovers all over the board, which was for the Chicago Bears defensive owners who spent too much to get them. It was at least a good sight. But, I mean, are you completely bought back in, or is this a lot have to do with Washington? Washington's just not good. That's, I think, a lot of it.
Yeah, they're not good, but I think, Chicago is obviously a very good defense. Are they as dominant as they're going to be as they were last year? I think you have to wait and see. But they are very, very good. They're obviously, I don't know, they might be, probably your favorite defense to have just because they have so much backing it up, but there's probably a handful up there. Will they always do this? No. This was a special performance, especially in the first half, and it almost felt like, not that they backed off, but they didn't really have to pressure near as much that second half because they were just holding on to the lead. Trubisky finally had a good game, but they gave him amazing field position. And Case Keenum, his numbers don't portray how badly he actually did because his numbers actually came out okay. He had the 3 interceptions, obviously, but he also threw for 2 touchdowns and he had over 300 yards. But he looked so uncomfortable. And, Mac and just everyone on that Chicago defense just ate him alive the first half. It was one of those that it was another game where you started feeling bad for one of the teams, and that happened to be Washington.
I mean, at some point you think Haskins is going to have to come in. They have to see what they have in him, but I don't know if it'll be yet. They don't seem to want to put him in yet, but I mean, at 0-3, Case Keenum's not your future.
They keep having the narrative of he's not ready, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I guess at this point, if you're not going to win games anyway, I'd much rather get him real world experience and just know that, hey, we're not going to be able to do the full playbook. We're not, he's going to make mistakes, but it doesn't really matter. This is kind of a lost year. That's what I would be thinking. And I was chuckling because we're separate tonight, but we're watching the game and I just sent a text to Craig and I was like, oh, time to see Haskins. Maybe they would put him in. And he was like, do you want him to die tonight? It was like Chicago is going to just ruin his career. Please don't put him in.
That's pretty much what I feel like would have happened. They would have seen that rookie quarterback back there. It just been, oh, this is going to be fun. But so I'll say for Washington, before we even talk about Chicago's offensive side, Washington, Adrian Peterson is hard to use, I would say. He's just not, I don't even know if it's him, if it's because Adrian Peterson is just 34 years old, but I don't think there's anything for him to do. He can't go anywhere with this offensive line, with this offense.
Yeah, I don't think they really want to give him the ball. It almost looks like if he gets to a certain yardage this year, they have to give him a bonus because when he was around the goal line, I understand if you have Thompson in there, maybe you're a little more dynamic and they're thinking you're going to pass. But if you're going to pound it out, why in the world wouldn't you put Peterson in there? I think he's still a pretty decent back. But yeah, I agree with you. I think in this offense, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see what he was able to do last year without Geis in the lineup and get 1,000 yards. I don't think we're going to see that.
Chris Thompson, if Washington has to play from behind a lot like this, he's probably going to end up with some decent garbage time points, some yardage. He ended up with 108 total yards tonight, and a lot of them there at the end. And just because it becomes easy to pick up chunks of yardage at the end of games, and he's going to be the guy getting those yards a lot. So if you want to play it that way, if you're hurting at running back, Chris Thompson's not a terrible option.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, not the prettiest way to do it, but effective nonetheless. And how about, I have to say, the one guy that really keeps impressing me on this team is McLaurin. And again, and this was when they were struggling, like when he actually, because you're going to look at it, and Terry McLaurin is a rookie coming out of OSU. He's getting a lot of hype right now. But you'll look at it and you'll say, oh, Paul Richardson actually had 8 for 83 and a touchdown. He was actually the primary guy. But it was really McLaurin who, when they were struggling, was the one that caught a great pass over the middle in the end zone, was the one that was getting them moving. I think he is already the best wide receiver on that team. And I think, obviously, when Haskins eventually makes a start, which I can't imagine it's going to be very long, you would think that they would have that special connection anyway, because obviously they played together in college. So he keeps rising up my boards.
I think he's going to be really good. And I was impressed by him again. Yeah, I know he got some at the end again in garbage time, but he was good. He kept finding in that they're playing in that zone. He just found the spot every time, and he looked good for a rookie. He knew what he was doing, and I think he's just going to get better. I really, really like him. And you can put him in your lineup at this point. He's done it 3 games in a row. He's caught a touchdown. So he's definitely playable for you. Then Chicago, Trubisky was better tonight. Washington isn't very difficult to play against, it looks like. But Trubisky was definitely better. Still don't trust him.
Yeah, he probably started, on the other side of the 50, a handful of times because of the defense. But yeah, he did well. He looked good, and Taylor Gabriel certainly helped that out. He had the big game. But obviously he had 3 touchdowns, in case you hadn't watched the game, 6 for 75 and 3 touchdowns. Were they all in the first half? I think they were, right? Okay. Yeah, so they got out to a huge start, and then they didn't do much after that. How about everyone else, though? Like, Allen Robinson, I know you like. He had 6 for 60. He was fine. They didn't really have to go, too crazy after they scored all those points. What do you feel about him? And the other guy that I have to ask about is Montgomery. A lot of people still hyping him up, 13 carries for 67 yards. I thought he would have gotten 13 is fine, but I thought he would have gotten a few more with the lead. What do you think about those two guys?
And with Robinson, I still like him, but I came into the season, I guess, expecting more from Trubisky, and I don't think that even with this good game, obviously it's slightly different on how their defense did. Robinson wasn't able to do much. I'm kind of hesitant just because of Trubisky right now. I'm not sure how it's going to play out for him, but with Montgomery too, Montgomery looked good at times. I thought he looked pretty decent again, but they don't seem to. I don't think he's going to get a huge workload. They don't really want to rush him into that yet, and they're not going to force it. So 13 carries for 67 yards is good yards per carry, a solid game, but he's no sure thing. And this is one of his better outings with 81 total yards here. But yeah, it's I don't think they're going to just hand him the ball all the time. They're putting Patterson back there. Cordell Patterson had 4 carries. They like that look for some reason. And then, Tariq Cohen actually got 4 carries. Mike Davis isn't an issue at all with Montgomery. It's just, for some reason, they don't want to give him the ball a huge amount right now. And I don't know if that'll change. But how about we move over to waivers for this week? And I'll say it's not that pretty, really. Are you terribly excited about this list this week?
No, unless you have a standout that for whatever reason is out there, pretty slim pickings, to be honest. I think the first few weeks were heavy on picking up who we weren't sure about, some of the rookies that did really well. And now this is where you have a few weeks and you start getting into injuries, and then those, bigger waiver wire guys come through. But not a whole lot out there. We'll go over some streaming picks and who we would grab if need be. But there's no one that really tops my list as in you have to go get this guy.
So our list is typically 40% of players that are owned and 40% of ESPN leagues or less is how we're going to do our list. So my number one guy, I cheated, actually. He's owned in 40.5% of leagues. I thought it was close enough, right? That works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's actually going to be Ronald Jones. It's like my top guy because I think 2 out of 3 games he's looked really good this season, and he's just so clearly better than Peyton Barber. He really is. And the one game where he didn't do much was that Thursday night game, and for some reason he just wasn't involved, and it didn't make sense to me. But the other two games, in San Francisco, he had 13 carries, 75 yards. And then against the Giants here, he had 14 carries, 80 yards. And he also got a one catch for 41 this past week as well. I think if they give him the actual opportunity, he's going to be a really good player here. Going forward, so much better than Peyton Barber. They just don't need to give the ball to Barber anymore. So Ronald Jones actually tops my list. I know people probably thought it was going to be Wayne Gallman, but it's Ronald Jones this week for me.
All right. A name that we were hopeful but never thought I'd hear again.
He's been 2 out of 3 weeks. He's been really good. So I liked him there. But then, all right, then we'll go to the second guy. I think it has to be Wayne Gallman, just based on the situation. You're getting a starting running back. I just don't feel good about it. I mean, we've seen Wayne Gallman in the past. He's really not any good. And the thing is, the team's not very good for the most part. Still, rookie quarterback who looked good in his first game, but we don't know what that means and if that's going to continue. I don't expect that much from Wayne Gallman, but when it's this week of a waiver wire and you're getting a starting running back, I guess what do? You kind of have to take a chance if you need a running back, right?
Yeah, you do, because there's really not a whole lot out there, especially for people who have an actual chance of playing or seeing the field this week. You got to take the shot, and there's no one else out there right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable with him in my lineup, though. Something about it, I don't think it's going to turn out very well. And so because of that, I'll actually say I feel like for next week alone, I probably feel more comfortable with this next guy I put on my list. I put Darrell Williams from Kansas City, just because Kansas City's such a better offense. LaShawn McCoy went down with an injury. You still got Damian Williams, who's possibly injured. Darrell Williams looks to be ahead of Darwin Thompson. And Williams actually produced when he was given the chance last week. 9 carries for 62 yards, 5 catches for 47 yards. He had 109 total yards on only 14 touches. It was pretty impressive. And I really just think whoever you put into that backfield in this Kansas City offense is going to be good. And if that's Darrell Williams this week, he's a great, just spot start this week to put in your lineup. For 1 week, it's a 1 week only thing. This isn't going to last. If McCoy's healthy, if Damian Williams is healthy, it's just going to go away. Playing against Detroit, they could probably score against Detroit pretty well here. So Darrell Williams, I'm actually quite interested in him.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think you're putting yourself in the best position to score, really. Because, I hate to even go over, say, Wayne Gallman, but it just shows how kind of barren the waiver wire is currently, where you think Gallman is going to absolutely get a lot of the carries, but you're on a bad offense, and you yourself are haven't shown anything without being mean about it. And this other guy, we're not exactly sure, but you're on an offense that is absolutely going to use you and put you in a position where you can score a touchdown. So I don't know. To be honest, how close is that for you? I would assume you would still probably start Gallman if you had to.
If I had to pick between the two, I'm probably picking Darrell Williams to start this week over Gallman.
So you are. So you're actually you're just on board. Yeah,
I really am.
I'm not that far off. I thought I was actually being a little facetious, but
no.
Yeah,
Gallman, I think obviously he's going to be the starter for longer, and so if you're looking for more of a long-term play, you need that going forward. I guess you take the chance on Gallman. But I think I would start Williams. This all depends on the health of McCoy and Damian Williams. It's still early. We don't 100% know. But if they are out or if they're limited, I would play Williams. And I wouldn't even hesitate, and I'd play Williams over them. Easy. Over Gallman. It would be easy for me, really. But again, depends on your team situation. You just need 1 week, like last week, that would have been Frank Gore. If you're the guy who's going, maybe you started Frank Gore last week, and now you're going to start Darrell Williams this next week, and just keep it rolling somehow, right? That's the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next guy on my list, this is where the list, I guess, is already kind of iffy. But then I really didn't know what to do. So I threw Rex Burkhead here. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that Sony Michel just hasn't done much. And hasn't looked good, and Burkhead remains involved in this offense pretty much no matter what. He had 11 carries this past week, 6 catches. I think that's going to be similar going forward for him. And he got a touchdown. it's not pretty, but I think he's going to have some, a little bit of volume, not much, but there's something there where he's an interesting play. If you're really just need something badly, because Sony Michel hasn't been getting it done. But this is where it gets ugly.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is pretty ugly, but if you look at the points he's been able to put up, you wouldn't think that he's second fiddle necessarily. He's putting up good enough points to, right now his positional rank is 32nd, which is pretty amazing since he gets, I don't know, the carries he got were 8, 5, and 11, and the only reason he got 11 is because they're beating the crap out of the Jets. So, I actually take your point. They're obviously keeping him involved, and the gift and the curse of Patriots. They're so dynamic, but at the same time, they don't worry about making anyone the bell cow. So, Sonny Michel, they don't care how many carries they give any one person. They're going to spread the ball out. So, I don't mind the Burkhead one. Obviously only if you're desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really where my running back list ends. And then after that, it's pretty much it for running backs. If you, are really, this is if you're truly desperate, you could throw Jeff Wilson in there and hope he gets that touchdown.
Yeah. Well, they are on bye.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he didn't make the list.
True.
Yeah, I was going to say, otherwise,
for 2 weeks from now. People are going to look at picking him up this week at least. So if you want to get him and play before he plays Cleveland, that's truly desperate. That's just like I don't know what kind of situation I have to be in to play him.
I don't know. It's an interesting one because it is definitely the risky play. But at the same time, if they keep using him as the goal line back, which they have, he rushed for 2 touchdowns in the past, each of the past 2 games, right? So 4 touchdowns in 2 games. That could completely go away, right? He could end up with 5 yards in general, and it really hurts you. But if you're in one of these sticky places, him or Burkhead, you're, I don't know, flip a coin really for me.
But it might change too, because now the last I heard today was they think maybe Tevin Coleman's back for week 5 after the bye. So that really, can you imagine if Tevin Coleman comes back? What the heck's that do? They're going to use all 4 guys, aren't they?
I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't even know what they're doing now. They finally got some sort of semblance of roles, and now they're just going to kind of throw Tevin Coleman. I don't know. I don't know what part he would play. The only thing I can think of in my head is they march him out there for 2 games, show that he's healthy, and then try to trade him.
Maybe. So after that, it's really just handcuffs. If you need some, there's a couple decent handcuffs out there, like Tony Pollard, Alexander Madison, if you just want to stash one of those guys in your bench. That's pretty much it for me at running back, unless you got some name that I'm not thinking of here.
No, I'm on your bandwagon as far as Madison goes. I think the way that Dalvin Cook has been playing and the way that team is able to rush and his injury past, he's an interesting one. If you have a roster spot, obviously I like him quite a bit.
And so over at wide receiver, again, not a lot out there this week. I'll say I think my top wide receiver in the 40% under category, I think it's Philip Dorsett from New England. He's been really, it's really good. Maybe he's a little pushing it, but he's been good. He's been good in the 2 games without Antonio Brown. The opening game, he had 4 for 95 and caught 2 touchdowns. In this past week, he had 6 for 53 and a touchdown. And now if Edelman's actually hurt and out next week, Dorsett's going to get even more. So he's an interesting play if you need a wide receiver for this coming week. And maybe going forward, he's going to get some touchdowns. And if you're looking for somebody right now, there's just not a lot else out there. So I think Dorsett's my top pick right now at wide receiver, under 40%. I don't see another one.
No, I really, really like that one. I think it's a smart play because, the big question was, especially with New England, they were going to throw the ball, so who's going to catch it? Obviously, Josh Gordon. Then Antonio Brown comes. Now he's gone. And you're thinking, looking around, and you're like, they have to have more players because they have to spread the ball around. They're not a one pony kind of show, as we've talked about. So who is going to kind of emerge. And right now it is Philip Dorsett, and he has been playing very well. I mean, they haven't been playing anyone spectacular yet, and Buffalo is a better defense than what they've gone against with Miami and the Jets and even Pittsburgh week 1. But yeah, I think he's kind of the forgotten guy because they always key on the other two kind of prime time wide receivers. And then the injury is just even more reason to Edelman is even more reason why you would want to pick this guy up. So absolutely. The other guy I would put out there, once again, is cheating. It's 41%, but it's DJ Chark for Jacksonville. He's just showing a lot of promise right now. I wish he would get a few more balls his way. He only had 5 targets last game, but he still turned that into 4 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. He has had a touchdown in every week so far. So, nothing has slowed him down, and he's a very interesting prospect because of his build. And I don't know, he's kind of pulling away from the other guys there. So the first time I can say that in Jacksonville for a while.
And you know what? And because people do ask that question, there's actually in the 40 to 50% level, there's actually a lot of guys that I'd pick all these guys over the ones we're going to talk about. Like you said, like DJ Chark, McCole Hardman's at 44%. I'd pick him over these guys. Valdez-Scantling's at 49%. I'd pick him over these guys. And then even Golden Tate at 47%. He'll be back in 2 weeks. He's, next week's the final week he's out. If you get Golden Tate coming back into an offense that's led by a quarterback who can actually do some things, he's interesting. He's, I think, a very interesting pickup. So
actually, I think that's a great point. So 47%, obviously a lot of people can go out and get him right now. Where does he rank as far as those guys, right? So I think, for anyone in that range, which I think are obviously more, DJ Chark, McCole Hardman, Golden Tate, MVS, rank them as far as which one you would take first.
Okay, this is actually kind of tough. So, I'm going to start from the bottom here. I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I would probably put actually Hardman as the last guy because his is so much banked on like big plays, and that kind of always worries me. So, I wouldn't trust him as much, and Tyreek Hill's going to be back at some point. That can take away from him a lot. So I'd probably put him 4 out of these guys, let's say. I'm trying to think, what do I go here? If I go, and Chark's been consistent. You know what? I'm actually going to go Chark as 3, Golden Tate 2, and then Marcus Valdez-Scantling be my number 1. I think that's how I'd rank him right now. We don't know for sure with Tate, but he was still a really good player in Detroit at the beginning of last year. I don't see why he can't continue that if Daniel Jones is up there. But Valdez-Scantling is probably clearly the number 2 in Green Bay right now. And it's not just all going to Devontae Adams. So if they take away Adams, they'll just throw to Valdez-Scantling. No problem. I think they're very similar, though. I mean, at least the top 3, Valdez-Scantling, Tate, and Chark are very close for me. Hardman's just a little below them.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to tell how they're actually going to be used. And I agree for the most part with your assessment. MVS is probably going to get more targets than the other guys. Tate and him will probably be very similar, honestly. I'm still not completely sold on MVS, but he had a wonderful game against Denver. The other two, nothing special. He's about to hit Philly and then Dallas. So I get where you're coming from, but as far as getting him right away and throwing him in, I'm a little worried about what that offense looks like currently. The Golden Tate, I'm still, I mean, a lot of these guys, I'm just not sold on. And that's the problem. That's why they're, in this 40 to 50, because Tate is coming back. So can you shake off the rest? Is Daniel Jones actually for real? That game was spectacular, but it's one game. And then you have McCole Hardman, who I really like, but it is completely dependent on the other players getting healthy and coming back. Then he gets knocked down. DJ Chark is actually the interesting one to me. I think he is obviously on an offense that hasn't really been proficient at passing the ball. But he actually might be my number 1 just because I like his upside so much more. And he's been so much more consistent than the other guys. So I think DJ Chark would be the one guy I would really argue with you on. And he would be my number 1. But obviously that's speculation and, you can go anyway. But I would say DJ Chark.
So now after we spent most of our time on players that don't actually make our list, that just shows what the list is like this week. The 40% was tough. I mean, I guess other receivers, you can throw Taylor Gabriel on that list after what he did tonight. I mean, if they use him like that.
I know, but yeah, it's one of those, I think that is going to be the spike, obviously the peak of his, and that's not bad because he had 3 touchdowns that probably should be your
but he
peak
went out with a concussion too, which is a drawback, obviously.
Yeah, I just don't think that is going to be the normalcy for that offense.
I don't either.
Yeah. So I have a hard time. I still wouldn't throw him anywhere near my lineup, to be honest.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that
I get it. I get it because it is so barren. But I almost feel like he already had his one, so I might as well take a gamble on someone else.
Another guy who's a slightly interesting name, just because there's no other interesting names. It's just I don't know. Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh, the rookie. He had 3 for 52 and a touchdown, so we'll see if he becomes more involved. He's gotten decent targets the first 3 games, 5, 4, and 6, which isn't bad for a rookie there. So, just another name to look out for. But this also shows that there's just not much down here right now. There just isn't. I'm just Devontae Parker's just no. I don't.
Yeah.
He's not making any of these lists. I'd rather pick up Preston Williams from Miami before I picked up Devontae Parker at this point. But
yeah, 100% agree with you.
That's about it for wide receivers, I think. I don't really have much else there. Tight ends, I really don't have much here either, but Will Dissly's still below the 40% mark, I believe.
He's still catching touchdowns, everybody.
So what is he at? 27% rostered, I think, right now. So Will Dissly has to top this list for tight ends again. And it's just, he's about it, though. He's probably it, but you know what? The other interesting name I'll throw out there. This could be the time, if you're really in need of a tight end, to go pick up Chris Herndon.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say that would be the only other guy that I would really throw out there. And you're getting him a week early, but no one is going to be talking about him. So I agree with that. I think it's so, once again, waivers are barren. But a lot of people have been hurt in the tight end situation because of the injuries and everything else going on. So if you can get Herndon and have the roster spot to hold on to him, even maybe for an extra week and have someone else in there to see what he does his first week back, especially when Darnold gets healthy and he is able to play. Herndon should be a very interesting young tight end that could make some noise, possibly.
So I'll say my quarterback streamer of the week, I think it's Daniel Jones. I know it's only one game, but he plays Washington this week. And we saw what Trubisky looked like a good quarterback against them. I think Daniel Jones could be a play this week.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, if you're looking for a streaming quarterback, a lot of quarterbacks in this range, under 50%, we'll say, have really bad matchups. The only 2 guys that have good ones, honestly, in my perspective, is Daniel Jones would be one, and the other guys, I like Jacoby Brissett. He's going against, who is he? Oakland. And he has actually been very consistent. I don't know if he has that real upside, but in standard scoring, 20.5, 22.3, 24.8. And he's always, he's thrown multiple touchdowns in every one of them. And last game was the first time he got a lot of yardage, but he's always been able to kind of keep you in the game, where a lot of these other guys, especially with the tough matchups, I don't want anything to do with. So yeah, I would say that Daniel Jones and Jacoby Brissett.
And then, I'll throw out Matt Stafford, because Kansas City doesn't really stop people that well. And, Detroit might have to throw the ball a little bit and score if they want to do something against Kansas City. So he might not be a bad play this week. But that's about it. That's about all I got there. I mean,
what would you, I mean, it's against Denver, but I just really want to bring up his name. But what about Minshew?
I'm on his page right now.
Okay. I just want to talk about the stash.
For some reason, I can't buy in.
No. I actually would say he has not played easy games either. I mean, he really hasn't. And he's done fine. 21.6, 18.1, 22. But at Denver, I still, maybe I'm wrong, but I still believe that they're a good defense. And for the most part, if they really wanted to play a slow him down type of game, they can. I don't think that is perfect for a young guy like him. But he has outperformed my expectations every week so far. So I don't know. Maybe you're braver than I.
Yeah, I can't do it.
He is not braver than I.
And then over, let's see, defensive streaming plays for the week. Defense is always interesting. You never know who's like available. I'm not even worried too much about percentage for this. So if the Chargers are still out there playing against Miami, you go pick them up. Play anybody against Miami at this point. That's an easy call. After that, to find, a really solid, I guess the Seahawks against Arizona is not a bad play. Seahawks are owned in only 15% of leagues. They've been okay. They don't like get blown out on defense, obviously, but they're not the Seahawks of old. But I don't necessarily trust Arizona right now, and I think Kyler Murray can throw a couple picks. And because of that, they could be a play. What else is there out there this week that you feel even that comfortable with?
I'm trying to find one here.
Maybe Texans against Carolina if you think this week is where Kyle Allen comes down to earth. That could be, but there's not great options. Broncos against the Jaguars if you don't believe in Minshew and think this is the week he comes down back to earth, but Broncos defense hasn't done much fantasy wise. They have no sacks on the year. Is that crazy? Not one.
Yeah, that's pretty bonkers.
No interceptions, no fumble recoveries. That's crazy. So there's not great options this week if you're streaming defenses. I hope you got
Actually, oh no, definitely not. I almost made a terrible
Steelers against Cincinnati. Maybe Cincinnati hasn't been very good.
No, but yeah.
See, none of these are great options. There's not a great. There's a lot of decent options or okay options. There's no great options down in this level. So basically, if the Chargers are out there, you somehow try to find them, get them. After that, it's you pick the best of the okay options and hope it works. That's about all I got.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly. Just end to end is really ugly on the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, it's just, Falcons against Tennessee. It's another one of those, not a great defense, but not a good offense kind of a thing. One of those teams is going to have a good week. It's just how do you figure out which one? And
yeah, exactly.
It'll be lucky, but all right. I think that'll do it for waiver wire. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk to you guys then.